Hello, Trance family. This is Rob, otherwise known as Some College. That's my artist moniker, Some College. Uh, Today, I thought I'd make a video reviewing one of my projects from a couple years ago, about early 2015. This project I initially started while I was taking an online class through Pyramind, San Francisco, the synthesis and sound design class with David Seven Skies. And I basically started this project just as kind of a tongue-in-cheek. I was going to make this kind of typical cliched sounding trance track, with the do kick and the slap back clap. I forgot what they call this type of clap. Anyways, let's and a couple other things that I'm going to show you as we go along here. But let me do a quick playthrough here. I'll go to my SoundCloud. I've got it queued up here, and just to give you an idea of what we're going to be exploring. Yeah, so there's that clap. I forget what the actual title for that is. And of course the do kick. Let's skip up here. Skip up here, give you an idea of what we're looking at coming out of the breakdown. I would do this on the project, but then all the MIDI isn't lined up perfectly with each other, and some parts wouldn't play, So leaping forward sometimes doesn't work. Okay, so whoops, I want to do that. Okay, so let's take it back to the logic. And one of the things that me and a couple of the other students on the class forum at that Pyramind, the David Seven Skies class, we were talking about rolling bass lines, and we were talking about a lot of other things, pads. So anyways, I wanted to keep this kind of tethered to the requirements of the class, so I did everything with Logic plugins. So as you can see here, I've got Ultra Beat for triggering all of the drums. I've got an ES2 for that's the bass line, and then an ES1 for the off bass, and then a bunch of other ES2s here for all the other parts, and then the piano melody, ESX24, a couple different layers doing different things, and a few more ES2s, and all effects. If you look in here, you'll see silver verb, silver verb, silver verb, silver verb. There's a platinum verb right there. So, so it's done completely with Logic plugins, except for right here. Or where is that? Well, we'll find it. So let's get started here. I'm going to start playing this thing out here. This is the rolling bass line. It's basically an ES2 with 3 detuned saws. Got the resonance cranked up really good, and analog tuned up, which kind of adds its own flavor of detune. And then I run it through a bit crusher, a compressor. I believe that is one of them's a sidechain. Well, there's only one compressor on there. Excuse me. Then a little bit more EQing down here. Stereo delay to kind of spread it out a little bit. So. And then, of course, it filters down it's got a low pass or a high pass that opens up. Then the off bass comes in. Off bass is just an ES1 triangle wave. Interestingly enough, I hadn't remembered that. Got some distortion going on here. Of course, side chaining. Keep it away from the kick. Keep everything away from the kick. And so it's got a good sound. It's got a good groove or beat. I think I like it. I mean, I like the way that it came out. So let's turn it down a little bit here. Whoops, not that much. Right about there. That's good. So that's the bass line. And then there's let's see here if I can't. All right. Then I have this other sound here that I was kind of picking Seven Sky's brain about, and that was kind of like the resonant kind of overtone sound that you hear on a lot of these uplifting trance tracks. And the way I did this is I did an ES2, and I've got an array of saws, a couple detuned slightly. And by the way, I did every bit of the sound design myself on this. So starting with an ES2 just from the initial 3 saws preset, and then changed it from there. The way I got this sound you can hear those overtones that are being created. Now, it didn't come out exactly like I had wanted it to, but it came out, it had its own unique type of flavor, so I said, hey, this works good with the track. But the way I did it is this EQ right here. It's got a huge resonant peak right here, and I automate that. So basically what I do is, whoops, yeah, there we go. High cut frequency is automated. And each one of these, I had to repeat, because certain frequency right here would create a certain overtone. So I had to go back to like 670, then 470, then 380, then 470, and you'd get this effect here. So here we go. And so it had its own little flavor, and it worked well with the track. So yeah, I mean, that was and I'm learning as I go in this class, so that was a learning experience. I didn't think you could really, never had thought about doing this before. But I would highly recommend that class, by the way, for those of you interested. Go to Pyramind Online and check it out. David Seven Skies is a great producer and a great teacher, and you'll learn a lot. Great workflow. You'll just learn, if you learn his workflow, it'd be worth it. Okay, so, and then, of course, I had some pads going on here. And basically what I did here with this pad is I set it up in parallel and blended in. The heavier weight went to filter number 2, and it's automated. The cutoff for the filter is automated to give it the kind of movement that you hear in these typical trance tracks. You hear how it's kind of opening up there, Well, no MIDI here, so here we go. So you got part of the straight signal coming through, and then you got the kind of swell coming up through this, that. Then a low that you can barely hear, but it adds a little bit. So yeah, and then the piano part here, it's a bunch of delays, big reverb, so it's just kind of up. And then here at the very end, the last cycle of the piano kind of intro melody, the reverb kind of, not the reverb, the delay. I automated the delay so that it fades off into the sunset. The piano. Then I've got this big bass sound here, which is basically 3 saws and a lot of detune going on here, a lot of analog, so it spreads out quite a bit. And I've got it, filtered way down. So you've got that drone, and you're just basically going through a kind of a swell here. And you pick up this little atmospheric pad that I did, used pulse width modulation. Now this one, I'll have to confess, I had to use an LFO tool for the sidechain, because when I picked up some weird type of distortion that I couldn't figure out, in the time constraints that I had. So I just slapped an LFO tool on there, but that's the only, other than this master bus, the Oxford inflator, that's the only thing that I really used that's not Logic. I'm sure I could go back and figure it out and tie it in with the original sidechain that's sidechaining everything else through this ghost kick here. This was just basically a pulse width, 3 pulse width modulation waves, and it kind of added a little bit of sparkle to the breakdown here. So I'm not going to hear the drone bass. And then you get over here, you get into the transition to the build-up where the final melody is introduced. And yeah, you'll hear that big bass come back in. I really like the way the track flows right there, right after that the kick is pulled out, and it comes back in. It's like, okay, here's the second half of the drop, and we're rocking. I don't know. I just like the flow of that, and I added this new synth here to go along for the ride here. Let's see. Whoops, wrong one. Kind of filtered down, then they filter up here. Now it's one of those things that you really can't hear it. You can't pick it out in the mix, but it adds kind of like an open sound. It adds a little bit of something, so I kept it in there, or that's why it's there. Then down here I've got a few effects. So yeah, I mean, like right here, the transition. Little cymbal sweep for each 4 bars. Bunch of delay, bunch of reverb. So yeah, typical to a trance. So then the outro. Yeah, and so that's basically it. It took me about 20 hours, 25 hours, which seems like a lot with 37 tracks, but I'm not the fastest producer. Uh, yeah, but this was actually, I would call this my most popular track. You know, that's popular. That's relatively speaking. It was signed to One Division Records. It showed up on the Beatport Hot releases chart. I believe it peaked at number 20 or 22, somewhere around there. And it's all done with Logic stock plugins, except for that one. Now you don't even need this. This is just this Oxford inflator. But yeah, everything else is Logic and that one LFO tool that I used. So I hope you enjoyed it, this little walkthrough, and I'll see you next time.